notorious for forgetting until about 12 minutes in. So this was really good. Fabulous. Got a bunch of Bay Area folks. I lived in San Francisco for about 10 years. I absolutely loved it. But Brooklyn's been treating us pretty well out here. All right. Gonna go ahead and mute everybody. There we go. And oh, where do I pin? I feel like Zoom has been moving things around. Anyone feel that way? There we go. My face, nice and big. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to How to Become a 10x PM Without Burning Out. This is probably my favorite workshop that I've ever created. I'm absolutely thrilled to share it with you guys. It's pretty amazingly powerful when you get feedback like this workshop changed my life. So I don't want to like overpromise here, but I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot out of today. So I really, really appreciate your time and attention. I'll get this light plugged in for us. All right. Okay. Well, let's see. We'll go ahead and get started while the rest of our folks trickle in. And I'll share my screen for us. Sweet. All right. So as I mentioned, welcome to Becoming a 10x PM Without Burning Out. I really am excited to share all of this with you guys today. We will be sending out a recording after the session's over. So if you do have to dip early, don't worry about it. You won't miss anything. But it is really awesome to participate and be seen and contribute. Again, the more you share with me here in the chat during the session, the more I'll be able to basically kind of customize this workshop to your actual questions. So I am here to serve you above all. And here's an agenda for today. So we're going to start out with an intro and some promises, expectation setting for what you can expect today. We're going to talk about why we're going to bother adopting a new productivity system. Sounds like work, right? But how to make sure it's worth it. We'll talk about what I lovingly call the 4 horsemen of burnout. We'll kind of get a heat check in the room here and see what you guys are struggling with today. We'll talk about the science behind why we take on too much in the first place and find ourselves at risk of burnout. And then if we have time, we'll burn through this as much as we can and see if we have some time at the end for open coaching. So that's what you can expect. And we'll start by, hi, who am I? My name's Becca Camp, and I am the founder and coach of an amazing community of women and non-binary folks in product called Fearless Femmes. The community is about 100 strong now. And the reason why people join the community is to, in short, get promoted to leadership roles without burning out. And from that place, we don't stop there. We use this increased influence to change the world, to change work culture, from something that currently is a little bit of a burnout cult almost, to something that is sustainable, fulfilling, joyful, where our growth is front and center, a place that's psychologically safe. And so once we're in those positions of leadership, we're able to use that, our seat at the table, to have that kind of influence. And no one does this alone. So we're all in it together in this amazing community where we have a course bi-weekly meetings and amazing resources together with just the infinite wisdom of 100 incredibly successful women and non-binary folks in the product industry. So today you're going to leave here with a very specific concrete tool. So this is a 6-step technique to reclaim your productivity so that you can do 10x the strategic work that you're currently able to do right now. A lot of you might be feeling like you are, actually, I'm curious, say me, if these statements resonate with you. You feel like you are lost in the weeds and don't have time for strategic work. Just say me if that applies to you. You might be ending every day with no time or no energy or time to devote to your hobbies. Basically, all you've got energy for is Netflix. Yeah, that's what I thought. Really, really common stuff. And so the main task here, the reason why we're going to bother with a new productivity technique is because this is really no way to live. I'm kind of curious, a little bit of a heat check here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you guys doing? It's been a hell of a 2 years. Burnout was, we're almost burned out on talking about burnout at this point. It seems like it's been this a 2 year long slog. Things are very different, and we're kind of having to reestablish our relationship to work. It's pretty scary. This is pretty unprecedented territory. So we've got like a 2 awful languishing, doing poorly before sabbatical. If you guys are interested, I've got a blog post about how to take a sabbatical based on all of the learnings from the dozen women in product that I coached through taking a paid sabbatical for over the last year. Really, really important stuff. But exhausted, languishing. This is not a tenable situation. There is, and yes, very seriously considering a sabbatical. Maybe I should have a workshop on this where I teach you how to do it. But there are some common pitfalls and some tools that you can do to really maximize that time. And it is way more available than most people realize it is. So I'm here to make you feel better. If you guys leave this experience and maybe explore this tool and put it to use over the next couple of weeks, and I get you from that 2 to a 3, then I'll consider my job done. Well, sorry, not complete, but I'll felt like I've been maximally of service to you. And so I'd really love it if you stayed in touch and let me know how this went. Again, for some people who really go all in on this is a life-changing productivity strategy where you can reclaim control of your calendar. And how we spend our day is how we spend our life, and languishing is no way to spend a life. And as for the actual results that we get in this program, where the tool, we teach the tool again and hold you accountable to following through on using it, we see incredible results. So Elizabeth got 2 promotions in the course of our 6 months of working together, a 70K raise, and became a people manager. Really, really common results that we get. This is sort of what I'd call our average result, is a raise like this, a people management promotion. And of course, all the intangible stuff that comes with it, like healing burnout and feeling navigating difficult power dynamics at work. Shannon made the leap to green tech and sustainability, which was a huge passion of hers, and got a $125,000 raise. Again, one of my promises is a 5 to 6 figure raise, depending on what your goals are and where you're starting from. Really, really common results that we get in Fearless Femmes. Quinn Lee interrupted her lifelong pattern of burnout. For most of us, this has been going on for our whole lives, if we're honest, right? We start in school, college, our early career, and we just kind of keep these habits even though they're not working. And she transitioned companies to one with way more upward mobility and got an 80K raise. So this tool that I'm about to teach has incredibly powerful, life-changing results. So pay attention. Okay, so real quick, I'll just go through these promises that I'm going to make to you today. So I'm not going to ask any rhetorical questions. If it has a question mark at the end of it, I want you to answer in the chat. I'm really, really curious to hear what's present for you right now, and I want to be able to help. Number 2, I do have an authentic style. There might be a little bit of tough love today. I swear moderately, so you've been warned about that. And I do move really fast and talk really fast. So keep up, but also never hesitate to ask a question. I really want this to be incredibly clear and actionable for you. So please do interact with me as much as possible. I will give you all the help I can in an hour. I already plugged my program, Fearless Femmes. You know that that's a resource available to you. This is not going to be like a pay-to-play situation where you have to sign up for something to get the help. This is a tool that I'm going to tell you right now, today, in an hour, along with anything else that I can possibly fit in. You will walk away with something real. But if you do stay to the end, you will learn how to get more help if you want it. So that's something that is totally opt-in for you. And if you stick around, you'll find out how to get more in touch with me, invest more deeply in your career and in your trajectory. And that'll be at the end. So the Fearless Femmes method, just to give you a quick snapshot of our approach, it looks very similar to product strategy, where we've got this unifying vision that is inherently motivating, a mission that lends focus to what we're doing and for whom, goals that are measurable, concrete, actionable, and then strategies that represent just ways to accomplish those goals. Those strategies are comprised of tactics, the small things that we do every day to make progress, and then we actually have metrics where we're measuring our progress of each of those tactics and the impact of those tactics. So enough about that. Let's talk about you guys. The 4 horsemen of burnout. I want to get a sense real quick of how you guys are doing on each of these things. We'll use the red light, green light methodology here, where red is dumpster fire. This is really, really struggling, like an area of huge struggle for you right now. Yellow is somewhere in the middle, and green is like, nah, I'm solid, I've got it covered. So the 4 horsemen of burnout are these are the 4 things that you can look out for as major signs that you are heading towards burnout or maybe already there. So red, light, green, or sorry, red, yellow, green. How many of you feel like you are doing this whole thing alone? Like there's some answer out there that you just aren't being told and you have to figure it out all by yourself. And you've got no one to rely on, no one to confide in, and maybe you're uniquely screwed up in some way. Anyone feeling red on that? Green is like, nah, I've got my squad. Doing it alone. Yeah, so we got some yellows, greens. It's good to hear some greens here. We got some reds, yellows, kind of all over the map here. So we'll kind of say we're average on yellow. All right, so that's really, really good to know. We'll talk about that in a little bit more in just a bit. The second horseman that is approaching or coming for you is no boundaries. You get asked to do something or something gets dumped on your plate, or your founder drives by your desk and says, hey, let's do this awesome idea. And you're like, okay. How many of you struggle to say no? How many of you is setting boundaries? Total breeze, no problem. Danielle, I love it. Green in all caps, heck yeah. So we got a lot of reds here. So this is gonna be a really, really big part of what we talk about today. And we'll talk about why this is. This is not your fault that your boundary setting skills are rusty. Okay. So the third horseman is interrupt. Oh my God. Do you have wall-to-wall meetings on your calendar, some of which are like Swiss cheese, sometimes double booked? Do you feel like you block out time on your calendar to actually get real work done and then people just schedule over it? Or are you feeling like you totally have like several couple-hour blocks a day where you can do deep work? That's green. Oh, Tiffany, awesome. I want to talk to you about what your strategy is. We'll compare it with the one I present today. Got some yellows. Yep. Yeah, this is one of the most common things I see is overscheduling. And it's amazing. Like we even know consciously that it's better to do few things well than many things poorly. And yet here we are trying to incurring all of the switching costs, looking at our calendar, feeling totally powerless, right? And lastly, self-doubt. How many of you walk into work today thinking, I can absolutely handle anything that comes my way? I've learned how to do pretty much everything else I've ever needed to learn. So feeling pretty good about that. How many of you feel like, oh my God, if someone's going to discover that I have no idea what I'm doing today? And there's a panic that you walk around with most days. That's red. Yeah, Jennifer, the low feedback loop thing is really, really important. And for sometimes when we're in a startup environment where we don't have really strong managers, really strong mentors, we don't have a culture of product that's teaching us how to excel at our craft. This is where community comes in, right? So we got some reds, yellows. Okay, cool. So we're a little all over the map today. I'd say that we've got the boundaries sounds like our biggest red point, which is probably why you guys are here today. We'll talk about how to set those boundaries. And then the interrupt sounds to be really problematic and doing it alone. So why change the way you're doing things? Well, if you want to reach these goals of getting promoted, taking on more scope, getting more experience, right? Getting more opportunities to shine and have massive impact. You can't just do more shit, right? Like that, you already have your calendar back to back. It's about really identifying what the single points of highest leverage are in your whole life, both in terms of the projects you select and what you decide to do and what you say no to, but also what you invest in terms of rest, in terms of recharge, all of this. And yes, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Nailed it, Tiffany. This is truly something that has to change. And there's no magic to it. So that's the tool that we're going to learn today. This is highly logistical. So I'm going to stop my share here and pin my handy dandy whiteboard. All right, can everyone see my my whiteboard on the big screen? Just say yes if you can. No, okay, let's see. It should be pinned. If you take off gallery view and do a speaker view, it should look big. Okay, cool, perfect. So we're all here. So this is what I like to call your next mountain. So you'll see here 3 slightly lopsided mountains. And you can think of these 3 peaks as the 3 major stages of our career. The first stage, I like to refer to as the novice stage. And I think, yeah, I think I pinned it. I think I did. I should have. Yes, it is pinned here. So, oh, you're on speaker view. I can't see it. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. Okay. If you pin it I have pinned it manually here, but maybe that just pins it for me. So go ahead and pin it for yourself as well. Thanks, guys. And if something's really broken, let me know. Okay, so the 3 peaks, we've got the novice phase, which is sort of the first 3 years of your product career, roughly. And the main objective here in this novice phase is just execute. Because the goal here is to establish what I call a pattern library, where you can kind of start to increasingly identify a problem and a matching solution that has worked for you in the past, and efficiently move your way through those challenges. So I don't know, you've got a strategy that you have to learn kind of by doing, and maybe learn the hard way about how to get stakeholder buy-in. And maybe you start to recognize patterns of when someone says a certain thing a certain way, it's because they don't understand. And so to just cut straight through to asking the right question. And this is something that we can learn. There are books you can read and blogs or blog posts that you can scan here that are all really important. But at the end of the day, we really just have to kind of brute force get absolutely as much experience as we can. And so the grunt work here, right, the labor of climbing this peak is really about just getting experience. So this novice stage, there's a bunch of really amazing programs for product leaders who are in the novice phase. I really love a couple. I'm happy to recommend them to you guys. Fearless Femmes, though, kind of starts around this peak going up this direction. And this is where we get to what I like to call the strategist phase. And the goal of the objective of the strategist phase is to 10x yourself, right? And by the way, this does not mean doing 10x the work. Again, physically impossible, a recipe for burnout. We just need a slightly different toolkit here, right? What are these tools? If we're working on just getting experience and we just at the novice stage and we're just kind of like trying things, figuring out what we're good at, feeling out what we enjoy, then the novice phase is really just about kind of getting as much breadth as possible. Strategy, if we define strategy for a moment, people tend to overcomplicate this. All strategy is spending resources on the most high impact thing, right? The thing that gets you the furthest towards your goal with the fewest resources. That's what good strategy is at a high level, right? Very, very simple. And so as a strategist, what we have to do is use the most valuable resource we have, which is our time, to focus on the thing that is most important. And the toolkit we have to develop here is saying no to things that are lower leverage, that are less strategic. Right? So for how many of you is saying no super easy? Say me. Or maybe because you're here, I can probably surmise that maybe it's not easy for you. Say me if you really struggle to say no. And maybe tell me why. Why do you struggle to say no? Say no to meetings that you think are not that good of a use of time. Say no to feature ideas that you actually have done some research on and you just don't think it's going to get much bang for buck. Right? So we've got people pleasing, right? This is, again, the mountain here, right? What's the obstacle? What's the lift here? So we've got people pleasing. What else? fear, and Claire, you beat me to it. Basically, all of the things that you guys are going to list is some version of fear. What are you afraid of? Self-doubt. Yeah, fear of failure. And what does failure mean, right? It means that you are a failure. We personalize this. We take it really, really deep. Being uncooperative. So we'll call it criticized, right? Anything else? You guys kind of get the gist, right? Fear, failure, people pleasing, self-doubt. This is where basic skills, the kinds of things that you learn in product school or road mapping or Scrum training, all these things that are deeply tactical parts of product almost entirely get covered in the novice stage. And in Fearless Femmes, what we focus on is this peak here, where pretty much what we're struggling with here is baggage. And this is baggage that we pick up early in our career, in our childhoods, from our families, from our culture, right? We're socialized to be afraid, to blame ourselves, to associate our self-worth with our work. This is really heavy stuff, right? And when our whole goal or at this level, once we're at the strategist and executive levels, are to 10x either ourselves or others, right? Sort of the third peak that we climb in our careers. It's all interpersonal relationships. It's all influence. It's all presence and ability to channel curiosity, grace under fire, right? These are way more emotional skills than anything that you tend to learn in product blogs and stuff like this. So this is where Fearless Femmes really comes in. We talk a ton about the physiology of success at this stage of product, and climbing this mountain requires us to say no. So today I will be teaching you this skill, and we're about to get to it, I promise, where it will be a checklist, if you will, like a kind of step-by-step playbook that you can do to set these boundaries, to say no, to make sure that you are maximally productive without burning yourself out. But if you don't have support on this stuff too, you're not going to follow through. So this is the tough love, right? And this is really where the Fearless Femmes sweet spot is. We do help people climb this peak and then on to the next one. A lot of the folks in the program have been with me for a year and a half, 2 years, and they're well on to this peak now where they struggle with delegation, right? Ooh, giving up control. How about that? Just another peak of emotional baggage that we have to ditch, right? To really be radically collaborative, radically confident, what I like to call unfuckwithable. Right? This is sort of the emotional resilience, conquering anxiety, really befriending your inner critic that's required to succeed at the highest level in a deeply ambiguous space, right? Being comfortable with uncertainty is probably the single biggest asset or the single biggest quality that a successful product leader has. So we're gonna just get you started today, right? And then we will talk about how you can go deeper and get more help later if you want it. I'm curious, where do you guys fall on this? What's my demo here? How many novices? Just say novice if you feel like you're on the novice level, strategist if you're climbing this peak, and maybe we've got a couple executives here as well. Got novice, got high novice, so we're kind of like around there. Nice. Finishing up that pattern library between strategist and executive for Claire. Got some novices. Strategist that needs to be an executive. Hell yeah, we'll get you there. Got some strategists. Awesome. So got a pretty big range here. But so no matter where you are in this process or in this, no matter what phase you are in your career, this tool I'm going to teach you is going to be insanely powerful. So let's get to it, shall we? I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I don't want to make people mad, disappoint others, or make them stop liking me. That's our mountain that we're climbing, right? I had this slide here because this is just how common this is. We really do get attached to being liked, to people pleasing, to basically it's an adaptive strategy to stay alive, right? This is something that's very, very deeply ingrained in our physiology and in our biology. And I don't know how to set boundaries without sounding selfish or unlikable. But here's the thing. This is the tough love part. Every single thing you do is an investment. It might be a good investment or a bad investment, one that gets you massive return, right? Massive impact per minute of time that you spend on it, or a poor one that just causes you to thrash, maybe sets you back even, right? And these reasons are shitty reasons that they're just simply not serving you, right? They're bad reasons to not say no. So being 10x requires investments that get you a 10x return. This is my rule of thumb for Fearless Femmes. We don't, it's not the right program for everybody. I screen people based on where will the result that we get at the end of the 6 months together, will that 10x the investment that they're making, both of time, but an hour or two a week, and $5,500, right? That means it should be worth 55,000 at least if we're going with that 10x metric, right? So thinking about your time as a return on investment is absolutely critical. All right, so are we ready are you guys with me still? Still good? We're about to learn the actual tool, so pay attention. Here we go. Say yes, thumbs up. Feeling good, party emoji. Still with me? Great question, Claire, about strategies you've seen work for managing fragile egos. All right, if you guys are still with me, we're gonna go. Ready? Okay, so one more bit of tough love. I'm busy is BS. As Brene Brown likes to say, busyness is the world's most socially acceptable opiate. And we basically blame all of much of our unhappiness, much of our overwhelm, much of our exhaustion on the fact that we don't have time for anything, as though we're not the masters of our calendars, right? So our calendars are the most important critical tool that we could ever use, because how you spend your day is how you spend your life. If you're feeling exhausted, it's because you do not like the things you're doing every day, and your calendar will reflect that, right? And so that's where we have to affect the change. And busy, it's just sloppy time management. Sorry, folks. Busy gives away all of your agency when the truth is that you get to set your goals, plan the logistics to get there, and accomplish them on whatever time frame you choose. You're 100% in control here, right? And it's just the fear that's getting in the way. And the amount of energy, and here's the real tough love part, the amount of energy you spend being burned out, tired, stressed, context switching is astronomical. And we add this busyness to our personas as though it's something to brag about. This is a cultural issue. It results in poor emotional fitness. And at the end of the day, guys, if you were to be more disciplined about how you spend your time, you would get more done. Like, I'm curious, how many people here do better work when they're exhausted and stressed? Anyone feel like they're like, oh, I'm so exhausted and stressed, I'm gonna crush this? Really? We're getting some yeses here? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call you out on this one, guys. When you're rested, you're able to feel creative, right? I don't buy for a second that when you're feeling terrified, when you're feeling exhausted, our brains start to shut down, our bodies start to shut down. It's simply impossible to be as curious, creative, relaxed, and enjoying present to our work. You're gonna be less efficient. It's a law of physics, right? When you have more resources, you're able to invest them more intelligently, right? So again, this is actually something I really want you to examine. If you feel like, yeah, I totally do better when I'm stressed. I think that's probably you associating stress and exhaustion with hard work, which is good, right? Like we fetishize working really hard. And that's what keeps us stuck at the bottom of this mountain, right? The bottom of the strategist mountain. We think that we have to work really hard rather than work smart. And again, when we're talking about making good investments, working smart is the whole game. So here's a couple of prerequisites for this tool that you're about to learn, just to summarize. Train up your emotional fitness, right? If you're suffering from anxiety, if you're kind of declaring bankruptcy over your calendar to overwhelm, this isn't going to work. We have to get support there first. That's what Fearless Femmes is all about. We have to address the self-sabotage that you're doing, right? All of the saying yes, all of the distraction, all of the procrastination. That's basically anxiety. That's all, right? We have to address that self-sabotage. We have to set a powerful vision statement for yourself. That's where we start in Fearless Femmes. If it's not inherently motivating, you're not going to do it. And then establishing clear, inherently motivational goals, like getting a promotion, right? I want that influence. It's really powerful, right? So here's the technique. Got your pen and paper? Let's do this. I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's not a very interactive teaching tool, but it really is just this simple. So I want you to pay attention here. The technique starts here. You're going to sit down at the beginning of every month. So it's still early December. You could do this for how you want to finish out the year. What's that goal? Anyone know what their goal is? Go ahead and type it in. What's your 30-day goal? I'll keep going while you type that in. Get a new job. Awesome. So there's this goal, Jennifer, that you've got about getting a new job. And here's how you're going to accomplish it. You're going to write down in a list every single thing that must happen logistically for that goal to be accomplished. Because at the end of the day, this is an absolute Fearless Femmes mantra. All of your goals are just logistics. You don't even have to be special. You are, but if you write down the instructions that tactically must occur for you to go from point A to point B, any schmuck off the street could follow those instructions. And if they do all of them, they will get the promotion, get the new job you're talking about, right? So we have to write this down, demystify the how behind this goal. So the self-doubt, that fourth horseman of burnout doesn't come rearing up about like, oh, well, you're not special enough. You're not talented enough. You won't be able to do this. Right? It's like, no, anyone could do it. There's very clear steps here. Then you're going to ask yourself, what else? What else? What else? There's always something more. So we have to really be thorough here. This is a little bit of the grunt work to this process where you're going to ask yourself every single thing that must happen. Do not skip any steps. You're going to have them all written down here. And then you have to ask yourself this. This is really important. What conditions have to be true for these logistics to happen? Right? When we were really in the thick of the pandemic 2 years ago, if your goal requires you to go into crowded public spaces, well, part of the logistics is going to be about waiting for the pandemic to subside. But sometimes those things really are out of our control, and we have to build them into our plan, right? So we don't get frustrated or sense of powerlessness. We say, no, this is important, and the conditions have to be right for it to happen. And then you have to ask, and if you skip this, none of this will work. So please pay attention. What self-care must I commit to keep my shit together along the way, right? If you are not sleeping, you will not accomplish your goal because you will be so dead exhausted that everything will feel like a grind, even this thing that's really important to you, right? So next, so this is the 5 steps, right? So the part one of this process is steps 1 through 5. And you just sit down and you book 30 minutes at the beginning of your month to do this, guys. It is talk about a high leverage investment, high ROI investment. You will sit down and suddenly the thing that is most important to you will be completely clear. And the how is all laid out for you. And then you write for 10 minutes if you have to, write for 30, really embody this process that every goal is just a sequence of logistics. And you look at this list and say to yourself, I don't have to do any of this. I'm choosing to do this because it is important to me. And of course, the tip that I like to give the femmes who work with me, scratch off anything you don't choose to do, anything that you don't want to do, and add a step to delegate it. I'm doing hiring a growth marketer for this exact purpose for my business, right? So this is something that I hate doing. I'm never going to like doing it, and so I'm going to delegate it. So this is how we keep our energy, kind of like an elite athlete. We make sure that everything we do is training, is training in the right direction. And marathoners don't train for a marathon by running 24 hours a day. That would be insane, right? Yeah, we agree. We agree that there's rest is a hugely productive activity. All right, cool. So we're on the same page. So step 2. Well, actually, sorry, just a quick example from a real femme in the program who was kind enough to show her real goals, right? So Lucy was sort of at the strategist going to executive level, and this was her output, right? When she did this exercise, she did it hers quarter by quarter, and Q1, Q2, and then she went and completed Q3 and Q4. So success for her, she described what it would look like when she accomplished this goal and then wrote the high level activities, the logistics that would have to occur. Very straightforward, right? So for this for this goal, this picture to come true, she had to do 1, 2, 3 in this order. And basically, if anyone were to follow these instructions, they would accomplish this goal. So Danielle, clarify for me, you have to fight against the idea of resting more productively. Tell me more about that. You feel free to unmute yourself and talk too. Oh, yeah. Oh, so yes. So the idea of needing it productive and needing it to be productive in some way, really, really common thing that we hear that I hear from the overworkers in the group. So consciously, would you agree that again, I'm using this elite athlete mentality, right? That resting is part of the training plan, and any athlete who does not invest in rest as part of their training plan and recovery, right? The off days is likely to injure themselves and take themselves fully out of the running, right? Say yes, we're on the same page with that. Yeah, okay, former marathoner. So like you really have an embodied reality of this, right? And the idea that is sort of, is it possible for you to kind of look at rest and say, yes, this is an investment that is going to that is a key part, just like lifting weights is, or just like running, ramping up your miles and ramping down your miles. It's a tactic just like that is equally essential. Does that ring true, right? Does that ring true for you as the elite athlete of product management, right? Or does something does something break when we make that leap? It's a mental hurdle. So, and why is that? What's that about? Where did you learn that rest is something to be ashamed of? Anyone else, by the way, so say yes if anyone else feels this way. Yeah, parents, it's a big one. We hear there's a lot in femmes, but I mean, it's the first, think about it, right? We're super young. The most important relationships we have in our lives are our parents. And they're like, we get modeled and frankly, often sometimes punished, right? Like this is no joke. Like at some point in your life, and of course, hustle culture, school work systems, all of these incentive structures are designed to exploit us, right? And our parents are caught up in it too, right? And there's a zillion cultural factors that could come in depending on where your parents are coming from and their own upbringing and own values. But especially in the US, I mean, hustle culture is again, it's a fetish, right? Yeah, Claire, the belief is that work is a reflection of worth. And we'll go into a little bit more about why this is at the end. So this is sort of the science behind why we end up in the situation that we're in. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning about this being emotional baggage. We've got this program, right, that's running, that gets formed at a very early age, where the tool, like again, kind of like it's the novice tool, right? It's the tool, that's the only tool we had growing up to get affection and praise and affirmation that we weren't gonna be left out in the cold to starve to death, right? Which as kids, like we are literally dependent on our parents for survival. We're not imagining it, it's actually true, right? And so this program gets written, right? This program about how to make sure that you survive. And the only way that you can actually do that is to appease your parents, right? Appease the people who are authority figures in your life. Right? Very deep, very actually smart, adaptive strategy, right? But what's the cost of that now? I'm curious, like when we just do it all, right? When we say, oh my God, I have to constantly get this affirmation. I have to constantly prove to people that I'm a hard worker and valuable, right? And that I shouldn't be left out to starve. I shouldn't be abandoned by the group, right? What's the cost of that now? Yeah, it's driven by anxiety, right? Here's the thing. We're not kids anymore. We're adults. And we have a lot more tools available to us. But this survival instinct is so deeply ingrained, and it's a program that has been running so long that it's sort of the default path, right? The analogy I like to use is sort of, it's a hiking trail that has been most worn. So it's the deepest and the widest and kind of the one that just people take because it's the most obvious path to take, right? This is real physiology in our nervous system, real neuroscience. So what we have to do, and this is why the program that I do is 6 months long, is because this is a real retraining effort where we have to slow down time just enough In these moments where, say, we get, a founder comes by with an awesome feature idea, right? The shiny object syndrome. And we have to, instead of going into fight or flight, right? Or people pleasing, which is a survival, right? Instead of being like, oh, okay, sure. We have to pause in that moment and reclaim some agency and reclaim our curiosity. And again, when we're super anxious, when we're tired, when we're exhausted, our curiosity goes out the window, right? Our ancestors who got curious about something interesting when a tiger was chasing them didn't really live to pass on their genetic material, right? So we're the pinnacle of evolutionary technology at this stage. And it's all based on our ability to not threaten others, to not incite the wrath of people who we see as authority figures, right? Our survival depends on it as far as our body is concerned. So this is where the reprogramming comes in. What we have to do is sort of in a small ways, we start small and then it gets really big, of doing some training of our nervous system where we practice saying no in low stakes situations. And then we just up the weight, right? Again, it's like a training plan. It's like weightlifting. And eventually what I like to call benching 250, which is basically the example I like to give for benching 250, because this is what it was for me, was walking into a room to present like with something really important to a room full of white men who want to see me fail. An overtly hostile environment, right? And now I can do that without breaking a sweat. It took a long time, but with the weight training and with some structure behind it, that's what Fearless Femmes is all about. And that's where you're headed, right? So here's the tool that you're going to use to practice this, right? So everyone, just to recap, we're sitting down at the beginning of every month, we're writing out the steps to accomplish a certain objective, right? And we have total clarity about like all the things that have to be done. And then what we're going to do is this: put each of these tasks on your calendar, right? Each of them has a certain amount of time that's assigned to it. And what we're going to do is take that thing off the list and put it on our calendar, because guess what? Doing stuff takes time. And if it's not on our calendar, it won't get done. Right? And here it is, this thing you've decided is the most important thing. Anything else has no business being on your calendar, right? At least not in a way that threatens this. So just a quick check-in. This process that I just described, what does this look like and sound like to you? Does it sound familiar to anybody? Product managers? Claire just laughs, I know. This is look at all like writing stories and working with your team to create, JIRA tickets so that there's total clarity and an estimate for time about when something's going to get shipped. Yeah, right. You know how to do this. This is my favorite part of this workshop because it's so hilarious. Like everyone here has done this like 100,000 times. And yet we don't do it for ourselves, for the things that are most important and the highest cost thing of all, which is our happiness and our well-being. Like every time that we walk around with anxiety, just taking literally years off our life. Work stress is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. From stress, from related heart disease, from depression, from suicide, all of these things, right? Work stress is the 6th leading cause of death. This is not a joke. And here we are with this thing that we're experts at, and we refuse to apply it to our own lives. So just a quick sort of tactical thing here, because I get some questions about how to really do this, how to estimate the size of these tasks. Basically, don't overthink it, right? Similar to how, when we're doing story point estimates with our team, like we're never positive. Just go ahead and estimate that small tasks are going to take an hour and big tasks are going to take a week. Just get a ballpark figure. Maybe you're faster at something or slower at something else. If you're wildly off base with your estimates, then we do a little retrospective and see what's going on there. But ultimately, the most important thing is that get this shit on your calendars and then defend it with your life, because your life literally depends on it, right? And when you have this done and you wake up every morning and you get that shit done, there's like no decisions you have to make about what the most important thing is. You know exactly what you have to get done, then you know exactly when this goal is going to occur, right? It's like there's no question like, how am I going to get this promotion? There's so much anxiety about if and how and when it's going to happen, and oh my god, it's like, no, when it's on your calendar, you know exactly what it's going to happen. And maybe you get sick for a week, right? The whole calendar moves back, no big deal. right? Take care of yourself. It's okay that, you're like, oh no, when is the goal going to happen now? Well, a week later. Zero mystery, right? And when we crave certainty, because I don't know, there's a lot of ambiguity in this life, right? Let's lean on the one thing we actually have control over in terms of establishing some clarity, right? You want certainty, awesome. Here it is. Make it for yourself, right? So if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. This is, again, just a mantra, because if it's not on your calendar, someone is going to schedule time over time that you should be doing this work, right? And when you have this mindset, right, about what the most important thing is, and you've got time allocated to it, saying no gets a little easier, right? And I want you to kind of feel into this just a little bit, right? When you don't have a plan, when you don't have a plan for your goals, it's all kind of like fuzzy and like ambiguous, and you don't know exactly how you're going to do anything. Someone comes along and books something on your calendar and you're like, well, might as well, right? Without a ton of critical thinking or evaluation about whether that investment is the best one. But when you've decided what's most important, it's on your calendar, then it gets a little easier to say, like, hey, like, this thing is less important. It can wait, right? Like this thing can take a back seat or a back burner compared to the thing that's most important. And of course, when it's at work, your goals are overlapped with the company goals, right? Everyone's really on the same team here most of the time. Again, not to say that there aren't hostile parties at work. Of course there are, and that's a different story. But fundamentally, the principle here is that you get to decide what's most important. You're smart, you can evaluate it, and then that gives you something to hold on to when you're saying no. So again, things do change over time. Another concern that I get is like, well, I don't know, things change really fast. Cool. All right, do this monthly exercise and then devote 30 minutes a week to sit down and refine that week's tasks. Like, you learned something last week. Okay, let's let that kind of influence the actual plan week over week. Doesn't have to be a big time investment, but again, this 30 minutes is insanely powerful. So any questions about the general technique at this point? Here's an example of my actual calendar. I've actually, this is a little bit out of date. I've got an even better one that I'll share with you guys in an email after the workshop. I have big sections of deep work, right? Where this is, even if I'm not sure exactly what I'll be working on during that time, I've got this 2-hour block or whatever it is that needs my attention most urgently. I get deep work for it. This nurture sequence that you guys are going to be getting after this workshop, you can unsubscribe, but I don't recommend it because the emails are really good. Basically, I had to write them at some point, right? Like, so how am I going to do it? Well, I have to devote time to actually writing it. And so I outline what that sequence is going to be. I author the first 2 here. I finish the first 4 here. And then I have one deep work block here where I am able to really wrap things up, really refine it. And I don't know, I think I actually spent about 2 hours out of the 3, and then I took a walk. So overestimating and padding some of this is a really, really good idea. Any questions? I'll give it a sec. I'll put on some lip gloss while I'm doing it. Look and fly. All right, if there's no questions, I'll move on just for the sake of time, but feel free to add them and I'll get to them at the end. So as for this problem, again, this is a great tactic. It's a really important technique. It will unlock a ton of empowerment for you if you actually do it. But it can be, as you mentioned, when you've got people who are frankly not friendly at your office, they make you feel unsafe, maybe because they're actually jerks, or maybe because they remind you of an abuser. Really, really hard stuff, right? This is not a mindset thing, right? This is a survival response that you're having in this moment that is very serious. And it's important to reprogram, but it's really hard. So here's a tool that I like to kind of sort of a Jedi mind trick that you can use in these moments that gets the no across, but in a way that maybe is a little softer and a little safer. So here's the line, okay? I call it the collaborative no. This is especially when you get this, like you've made this amazing plan for the roadmap for your team, and then CEO comes in and is like, oh my God, I just had the best idea. And what you do, because you have this plan, right? You've got this plan that is the most important activities, the best investments your team could be making with its time, right? You've done a ton of thought on this. instead of just saying no, right, which I don't know, might be awkward or it might not incite the response that you're looking for, what you do is you say, thank you for this idea, great idea. Here are the priorities we agreed to. Which one should I swap out? Just ask them, right? Like if this sounds like a really interesting idea, but if it's a thing we should do now, well, obviously, we've only got so many hours in the day and so many resources. So which one should we sacrifice? And 9 times out of 10, what they say is, oh, never mind. Or another one, this is my friend Jackie Bavaro actually gave a guest talk to the Fearless Femmes when I was on vacation. And she had this awesome line, sort of similar with this shiny object idea situation, where she says, oh, so is the problem you're trying to solve with idea X this? So is it trying to solve like the user retention problem we've been talking about? And they're like, oh yeah. It's like, awesome. Well, here's how we're actually solving that right now. We're really excited about it. And more often than not, so a Jedi mind trick for you that gets people on board. Really, really what they want is to know that the problem that they're seeing is being solved. And there's not a leader in the world who doesn't sometimes skip to solutions, right? And again, we know as great product leaders, we have to spend 90% of our time in the problem space before jumping to the solution space. But it's hard, it's very tempting to go to solutions, right? So just a couple of hot tips for you guys. Here's the main point that I want you to take away from this. You get to decide what you accomplish on what time frame. This is an invitation to take radical responsibility for your time, for your life, for your goals. And you don't have to get a promotion in 6 months if it's going to burn you out. Guess what? If you burn out, you probably won't get a promotion because you'll be too tired to actually accomplish it. You'll be too strung out and anxious to ask. Right? You'll be so ineffective that you won't do the work required to warrant a promotion, right? So this is really a very practical, and the reason why it's so effective is because it's so straightforward and effective in this way, right? When you're rested and focused, you do better work. Your whole team does. All right, be ruthless with your time. This is something that we talk about a lot in Fearless Femmes, is ruthlessness. We are full mama bear about our time, right? And this is something you can channel if you feel sort of that ruthlessness, maybe with your kids or your family or your friends, right? We want to channel that same ruthlessness for your calendar. All right, what else do I got for you? So again, work smart instead of hard. This is the whole game. You don't become a 10x PM by doing 10 times the things. It is simply not possible. Right? And if you're frustrated, if you feel like you're on this hamster wheel, that's why, right? It's because you were trying to do 10 times as much work, and working hard will not get you up this mountain. All right, let's see. I want to skip ahead just a bit. So there's a couple, one thing. So the question that we got earlier about why we end up saying yes to things that we should say no to. Right? The reason why we get pulled in a zillion different directions, we overextend ourselves, we make bad investments, even though what we're trying to be is a strategist, right? And strategists make good investments, right? Again, very simple here. It's called human giver syndrome. And human giver syndrome is a known phenomenon in the science of stress. And it's defined as the belief that you have a moral obligation to give every drop of your time, energy, mental space, emotional labor, body to others, no matter the cost to you. Who here feels like they might have human giver syndrome? You'll notice this is a kind of a cute play on words, as opposed to human beings, right? Human givers versus human beings. Guess who gets to be, right? Guess which gender we socialize to be, and guess which gender we socialize to give, right? People socialized as women are actively shamed for doing something for themselves. That's where this is coming from, right? We do this, we've internalized it so deeply that we even do it to other women, right? We do it to ourselves. Victim blaming, right, is sort of an example of this. So this is a really, really widespread phenomenon, and it's one of the most damaging aspects of our culture. It is this impossible double standard, right? It's a double bind for all of us. So human giver syndrome results in what's called compassion fatigue, right? When we overextend ourselves so much, saying yes to so many things because we believe that we owe other people. And then of course, it's not just us, right? We do get punished when we say no. People do respond to people socialized as women worse when we say no, right? So this isn't something you're imagining. And so the result is compassion fatigue, where you check out emotionally, you minimize suffering that's not the most extreme. Like, well, there's starving people, you know, in other parts of the world. So I shouldn't be so sad, right? I shouldn't be so exhausted. You might feel helpless, hopeless, powerless, while also feeling responsible for doing more somehow. Anyone resonate with this? Give me a little hand raise or a yes. And you might stay in a bad situation, because of this belief that if you don't do it, no one will. There's a sense of owing my team. And one of the most common things I hear with people just starting out in Fearless Femmes is like, well, I couldn't possibly abandon my team. As though their company would feel like they owe her, right? Again, no one owes anyone anything in reality, but we're socialized to believe that we do. Audre Lorde, I love this quote from Audre Lorde: caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. There is no more radical act than pleasure for its own sake, than rest for its own sake. Again, not even to be more productive necessarily, but just because you fucking like it. That's my one F-bomb for the day. All right. So 4 horsemen of burnout: doing it alone, self-sabotage, interrupt, unclear goals. This is the current culture of work. At the beginning, I told you guys that I would tell you how to get more help if you want it. So here's how, okay? Fearless Femmes is on a mission to promote women to leadership roles in tech within 12 months and use that influence to change work culture. Many Fearless Femmes actually achieve that goal within 6 months. I say 12 as a guarantee, because sometimes there's career changes or pivots or things that just, again, if it's all logistics, just takes a little longer. There's just more to do. Again, getting these results is something we see all the time. And so there is this spectrum of results that I like to see, both intangible and tangible. Frankly, if I got you a 100K raise and a promotion and you felt shitty and empty and unconfident, I would not consider that a win. So we really look at the full breadth of this, right? And yes, Jennifer, no worry if you have to start a hard stop. I know we're out of time, but we're about done, and I'll send the recording. So we're talking about confidence, executive presence, energy and creativity, managed stress, better relationships, warm intros to better opportunities, because you've got a 100-strong community at your back, successful job search, free time, impact, promotions, raises. All of this is available to you, and these are results that we get all the time in Fearless Femmes. It's really amazing, because we break down these goals into the logistical steps like you just did. And we then have the emotional support and this emotional healing journey to get out of our own way. And we do this over the course of 7 modules that are trickled out, and the group sessions that we engage in together. So if you're interested in Fearless Femmes, I would love to hear from you. And if you would like an invitation for the application that I'm going to send out to you guys, I want you to just say, invite me, in the chat right now. And I will make sure that you get an outreach with the application, and we can learn more about if Fearless Femmes is going to suit you and your goals. And if you have to hop off, no problem. You can always email me. Amazing. Thanks, Shreya, Priya Darshini. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm so happy you took an hour out of your day to spend it with me. And I hope this was helpful. Please stay in touch. I would love to know you, love to have you in the community. And let's talk about if Fearless Femmes is going to help you get to where you need to be and unload some of this baggage. The world really needs you out here. Don't know if you've noticed, but we need you at your best self, your most energized, and I don't know, life's short. All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll send out this recording in just a bit after it uploads and does all its things, and we will talk very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, everyone.